This is Radio TV Phono Nut, and here are the guts out of that 1951 Sentinel that we recently opened up, did an unboxing on, and I did plug it in, and it plays, but it has loud filter hum and weak audio. Looks like the filter capacitor is the original based on the date code, and I see this capacitor between the plate and the cathode of the output tube has blown its guts. And then we have some more of these capacitors that say molded capacitor on them, which I'm sure they're leaky by now. We'll find out soon enough, but right now let's go ahead and get rid of the filter and get rid of this plate bypass cap, and then we'll go from there. This is a hot chassis set, meaning that one side of the AC line is connected directly to the radio's chassis here. And just to show you how bad it is, this is a standard 5030 dual section capacitor. Section 1 reads 6 microfarads, and the other section reads 7 microfarads. So this one's cream puffed. Okay, we have the 2 electrolytic filter capacitors replaced. We have the plate bypass capacitor for the output tube replaced. And we have the across-the-line AC capacitor that had also puked its guts, replaced with an AC safety cap. Now let me call your attention to something. I don't think I've ever seen this used in this particular application in a radio, but I have seen this before. You'll notice they have a wire coming from the filter capacitor positive all the way over here and wrapped around this resistor lead, which happens to be the grid bias resistor for the 12SQ7, and they just have the old piece of wire wrapped around that resistor. Now, it's called a gimmick. It's a way they use to make a very small capacitor. A lot of times it's used to bypass RF or couple RF to another stage or whatever, but it just depends on the circuit. But if you see that, leave it alone. Now, like I said, I've never seen this used in this application. I could probably take it out and it might not make a hill of beans difference, but then again it might. So I figure the manufacturer had a reason for putting it there, so we're going to leave it there. Alright. We'll get that off of there. We'll get a copyright strike.
I mean, there was like Delta here in Atlanta. They did voluntary furloughs. No one. Take everything from me, but I'm not going to give you my why. I'm not going to give you my will. That's mine. And it's just a gift that keeps on reading, right? And it puts this in perspective too. It puts this in perspective.
Alright, our audio circuit does seem a little lacking, so I'm testing some voltages there. Now I have the antenna disconnected, so we're not going to get any reception. Alright, looking at the control grid of the output tube in respect to cathode, I get negative 5.1 volts there, so that's what I want to see. Alright, cathode, 6.2, I can kind of live with that. Plate voltage, 105, that's probably about right. Screen grid voltage, 83. Okay, let's see what the plate voltage is on the detector tube. 31. It might be a little low. So let's check this 470 k ohm resistor that's in the plate supply line to that tube, and also check this 1K resistor. It's in the power supply. It's between the two filter capacitors. This 180 ohm cathode resistor is measuring 228. You can probably change that to 150 ohm and it'll be fine. That's pretty much the standard value. Yeah, this 470 k ohm resistor is reading a little over a meg, so more than double its rated value, so that needs to go. Okay, I'm going to replace that plate load resistor, but before I do, I want to check the condition of that coupling capacitor, and the best way to do that without cutting it out is to have our meter clipped on it, and then when it warms, when the set warms up, I'll pull the audio output tube, and I've got to do this real quick because this is a series wired set, and if I see any positive DC voltage on the meter, then we know we have a leaky cap. Now, before I was checking from the grid to cathode, now I'm checking from grid to chassis, and I'm getting 1.68 positive. So I'm going to try to situate the camera where you can see the meter while I pull the tube. Okay, let's see if that'll sit there. Not good, but let's see what happens. Alright, let me pull this audio output tube. And yes, it's got DC. Where is it? We got 2 volts there, so yeah, that capacitor is a bit leaky. So I might as well just go ahead and replace it when I replace the resistor. And now I'm checking the output of the capacitor with no load on it whatsoever. Before, even with the tube removed, we still had the 470 k ohm to ground, which was bleeding off the voltage output, but with no load at all, we have 13 volts positive coming out of that capacitor. So yeah, it's leaky and it needs to go. Okay, I have the audio and power supply circuits redone. I know I said I was going to use 150 ohm for the cathode resistor, but I wanted to stick with factory specs, so since I didn't have 180, I just put a 220 and a 1K in parallel, and that gave us very close to 180. So let's connect the loop antenna and power this up and see where we are right now.
Maybe because I was born.
A lot louder now.
Style face mask on and I wear gloves too.
That rattling, I think, is this dial pointer.
Young girl, you know, it's like this goes grocery store. So they turned the corner and they saw me when I faded.
And economical calories as well. You're recording, so we want to make sure.
Breathing hearts, you are depending. All right, everybody.
Alright, we're getting some DX, but I'm not expecting optimum DX performance yet.
Yeah, it is kind of strange. It's not.
But our audio is working good. Alright, I've replaced all of the capacitors in the radio, and now we're ready to align it. And we're going to do it by the instructions. They want us to blow a 455 kC signal through the grid of the 12SA7 converter tube with a 200 picofarad capacitor on the output of the signal generator between the output of the signal generator and the grid, and the low side of the signal generator connected to circuit ground, which in this case happens to be the chassis. And we have the radio plugged into an isolation transformer to prevent any fireworks. Alright, let everything warm up. Let's see if we got a signal. Let's just use just enough output to get something. Now let me deviate off of the signal generator frequency and we'll see how far the alignment's off. Yeah, it's off some. Not much, but it's off a little bit. So let's find an alignment tool and adjust these IF transformers. Now these are the newer permeability tuned type, not the older, better capacitive tuned type. Alright, this second IF that someone replaced is way off. In fact, I had to do it with both hands because the slugs are so tight. I pretty much had to force them to move, and yes, I was prepared to replace this IF with one of the old big type. Got this one falling apart. So let me cut the output of the signal generator down, and we're going to repeat the procedure and get it as good as we can. Alright, that's about as good as it's going to get. Now that misalignment might have been due to somebody twiddling with it, or it could be due to the internal capacitors in the IF transformers drifting in value, and that's been known to happen with these. Like I've said in the past, the best kind of IF transformers are the old big type with the 2 trimmer condensers on top of the can. Aside from an occasional open winding, those types of transformers rarely ever give any trouble. Now next we need to connect the loop antenna and perform the other alignment procedures. Now for the final steps, we have the signal generator connected to the external antenna and ground connections, which is just a winding on the loop antenna. It's the same thing that you've seen Shango do in some of his videos, where he just radiates the signal through a rolled up spool of hookup wire. Now, and all these my scribbling is because my printer ink's going bad, and I had to just write down what I needed to know from the computer screen. Alright, now we need to adjust another trimmer for minimum output at 455 kilocycles. Alright, now we're adjusting this trimmer for minimum 455 kilocycle output. Oh, so you want to be stuck too. Whoop, that's getting louder. Okay, that sounds minimal. Now we want to adjust the tenor and the signal generator to 1650 kilocycles, which is the top of the dial. 1650, and adjust the oscillator trimmer for maximum, which is the trimmer on the rear of the tuning condenser. And let's turn our output of the signal generator down some. Set the generator to 1400 and then tune the receiver to 1400 and tweak the antenna trimmer. At 1400. That right there.
Going to be brought back, but really they're reaping. But they're sewing some more clothes now.
It's going to be a problem because we got 1390 there. It's too close to it. Let's alter that a little bit.
The first generation, and he became, and he and she no doubt carried their own son out.
Alright, I set it to 1420, and we're still getting interference from 1390.
They didn't realize. Yonder goes our boy, the American rebel.
I don't think the FCC would like that very well. But that's about it. Now I had to kill the interference, but it's not even 6 o'clock yet. And I'm already hearing some DX coming in, so
For more, check out the Billy Graham special.
Provide critical support in the classroom. He fed his soul, and he made the world.
And it's just scary right now.
And get an extra 3 months on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com.
You take those steps. Very, very smart to close those up. And praise 1910 AM.
Lower end of the band's probably not going to be as active. There's something there. But yeah, I think after sundown this thing will really go to town. Alright, it's about dark, and we'll do a little scan and see what we get.
Lowe's knows your job hasn't stopped. We're here to help with the supplies you need to make repairs and keep people's homes running smoothly at this important time. From our convenient curbside loading to job site delivery to savings on the products you need.
A little earlier I was picking up, what is it, WBOK 1580 out of Anniston, Alabama, playing oldies. Not very good of a signal, but I could still hear it. And reminds me that when you listen to a good music AM station that's run right on a decent AM radio, it can sound very pleasing.
Many music lovers refuse to pay anything to own a new song. Why pay for music when it can be downloaded illegally for free? When you download music...
Shut up. I don't want to hear about illegal music downloading.
I checked out now, but we have to get on our way to Chicago department.
Yesterday. It's a former reporter who worked for the Times from 1999 to 2010, primarily covering the pharmaceutical industry.
WSM.
We're talking about family members who passed away and had tickets to the World Series.
And later becomes leader of the church. Listen, y'all, I've got 2 older sisters. I'm the baby in my family. It's been really good, and so we're going to have some great competition. He's a friend. We'll have a friend in the league. Has died at the age of 73.
WABG. I don't think I've ever received that before. I'll have to check that out and see where it's located.
On the right track. This proven plan doesn't change with the economy.
I don't want to play no more.
It's got to be WDIA.
Ride your bike or walk or do whatever in Shield County. Like, man, I just did 13 miles. From rain, hail, and wind damage to that 100-year-old beech tree that dropped in unexpected. assess the storm's devastation and meet with
This is the advantage to getting a decent radio with an RF amplifier on its front end. Pick up more stations. And when your selection of AM is not that great, you need all the station pulling power that you can get.
Quality of life of the patient and can improve.
QFM, this is Talk Radio 98.3 and 1510 WLAC.
Second losing season followed. You can even watch.
Sure if that's it or not. And that's it. Yeah, I'll make a pretty good antenna. But as it gets later, the reception will get better, but this is not too bad at all.
It has such a spiritual heart.
Here's another classic country station. Let's see if I can determine where that's from. I hadn't heard a station ID yet, but I am noticing some stations are starting to go back to music now on AM. Maybe some of them are finally getting a clue that people are getting tired of hearing all of the windbag talk garbage.
Something as important as your credit. What about checking something as important as your credit? Discover.
KMOX.
Catch a manifold ride.
Total assets of
still doing it. Safety off and came back to the football.
This is for real. You've got a house to insure, and there are no excuses because Progressive Home Quarter.
All right, we've had a good run of tube radio repair here lately, so might find something else to dive into next, just to kind of change things up a bit.
It's time for some straight talk. You know what a full court press is? Well, we gave all the cows away.
Yeah, that's WSM.
All the ones up on the grill.
It is the COVID-19.
First of all, you're required to, according to the form. But I do...
Atlanta News and Talk.
Good evening to you on this
WSB, and they don't even identify themselves by the AM frequency anymore, just the FM.
Top story this hour. Some positive news from 2 metro area hospitals. Both Grady and Emory saying today the projected spike in coronavirus cases so far is not as bad as expected. Grady's chief medical officer, Dr. Robert Jansen, tells Channel 2 Action News he's cautiously optimistic.
It doesn't mean that the infection is gone, but it has allowed us as health systems to keep up with the demand, and that's great.
Dr. Jansen.
And Richland Jackson and W225BK Cedar Hill. We're your source for the Blues. Blues 93.1.
WIIN out of Jackson, Mississippi. I bet they're a station that's probably running on daytime power when they're not supposed to.